With Arthur Kallos, CEO of Spark Financial Group. I'm Kylie Denton, the CEO and founder of Performance Advisory Group. And between us, decades of experience in leadership, business growth, and productivity. And each month we get to sit down with amazing humans and have some real conversation about what works, okay? And also what some people get wrong as well. So whether you're leading a team, whether leading a business, or just leading yourself, our aim is simple, and that is to give you some practical insights that you can use every single day in your world. So let's get into it. I want to introduce our special guest. Well, before I do, hi Arthur, how are you going?
Oh, thanks for thinking of me, Kylie. It's great to be here again. Pleasure to be here as always.
I know, I can't forget. I was super excited because Prosper and I have known each other for a number of years. Prosper Taruvinga is the founder of Lifelong Digital. He's also the host of Online Prosperity Show, and he's also the author of this amazing book, Own Your Media. And Prosper, he helps coaches, he helps consultants, and he helps service-based businesses build profitable brands. Okay, and he removes the rented attention on social media to actually owned media assets that generate that long-term visibility, that trust, and leads. You are originally from Zimbabwe and you're now based in Melbourne. And every time I get to go to Melbourne, I get to spend some time with you. Prosper's what do you call it? How do you say this? I can't even say it. Entrepreneurial journey began after moving to Australia with more than just a backpack and a vision for a better future. Since then, you've worked with hundreds and hundreds of businesses across Australia, helping to simplify their marketing, clarify their message, and grow through strategic content and relationship-driven marketing. You are known for your energetic storytelling and practical insights. And for those that haven't read this book, the storytelling just comes straight through. So welcome, Prosper. I am super excited to have you here today.
Kylie, thank you so much for that. I was just sitting here thinking, who are they talking about? And then I realized, Arthur has his 30 years of experience. So I really appreciate that. Thank you.
Don't let everyone know 30 years. Make it less,
I know. Makes us feel old, doesn't it? Lucky we look so young.
Wisdom.
Oh, wisdom. Yeah. So, Prosper, thanks for joining us today. And I think this is such an important story to share, because I think what we're seeing now more and more, well, I'm certainly seeing more and more in businesses, is the personal brand. Right. Before, years and years ago, it was all about the company brand. Now I'm seeing more and more the personal brand coming through over the last few years. And I'm hearing lots of stories now that we see AI coming, is that you have to have a really strong personal brand to continue. And your framework, which is Own Your Media, which is MEDIA. So tell us a little bit about that and why you actually decided to go down that path.
Absolutely. And thank you so much. I like the words that you used when you were starting to preface this conversation. You address people that are leading a team, that are leading a business, or that are actually leading themselves. And that is very crucial for people to understand what lane they're in, because yes, you still can lead a business and have it profitable and enjoyable, and it still works in the world that we live in today without even showing your face. Or you can have your team create their own personal brands, which then creates armies of people that are out there magnifying what you can do as a brand. Or if you are a sole practitioner, you can then actually do all the grunt work. But the underlining thing that needs to be happening is whatever it is that you're doing, you have to actually be owning the message that you're putting out there, the engagement that you are using to connect with people, the distribution, and then, the IP and the actual assets that you're creating. So now let me go back to the actual question that you asked. Why now? Why is it relevant for anyone to actually have their own personal brand? There's something that happened, and it happened while people were watching or scrolling through TikTok or Instagram. Okay. Back in the time, we used to have one television, one entry point into the house. All right. And that's how people got information. The information came from one TV channel, it came from one telephone in the household, and one entry point in the household. But nowadays, in my small household of four, all right, we've got maybe 16 screens amongst us. So each of those screens, I mean, the most of them are in my office, Kylie. But then each of those screens means people are receiving information that is very personal and directed to them, which means us as business owners, we also need to morph into that particular person who relates to the people we want to reach out to. All right, because if we become everything to everyone, we get lost in the noise. All right.
Yeah.
So that's the reason why it's particularly interesting and important now to create a personal brand, because people will actually connect based on what it is that they know about you, what they like about you, and how much they trust you. And it makes it easy for them to actually start doing business with you.
Yep. Yeah, totally.
It's really interesting because Victoria, who's our marketing manager, we were talking the other day, and she said, do you think I should do some videos, right, and put them up on my LinkedIn so that I'm also starting to be seen as a brand? And I said, absolutely. I want people to not only identify with me as the brand, I actually want them to identify with my team as well as the brand of Performance Advisory Group. So how is it that people can become visible as, say, the owner, like Arthur or myself or other organisations or other owners, but then how do they get more of their team to be seen as the brand as well? How do they become more visible, and is that important, to be honest?
It depends. That's now a decision that the business owner and the team members should actually make. All right. So there are examples of this already in the marketplace where, let's say, the Michelin star ratings or Guinness Book of Records or things of that nature. Guinness is a beer brand, but they are creating content which makes people talk about while they are having while they're having a beer. All right. And then there's also the Michelin star. Michelin tires are creating reason for people to travel far and wide so they can use up the tires and now utilize the restaurants that are far because they're following that. So the brand can actually just be the one that's at the top, and then there can be different subjects that each and every one of the team members are interested in that they can start talking about. Like Ford has blogs on farming because they know some of their users or customers are actual farmers, but it's not the Ford brand that is going to put itself out there. They're going to find somebody within their team who's passionate about farming, and then they can actually start talking about that. So you want to find what other topics can your team be involved in, because there's always health, wealth, and relationships. And for financial planners, you're already talking about wealth. So maybe you could have somebody team that is very passionate about health that could actually start their own thread, which then links people back to you. But there has to be somewhat of ownership and a needle that actually shows people that they haven't just stumbled onto some sort of a health blog. There is a connection with whatever it is that you're talking about. So it then depends on what it is that you want to put out there in the marketplace, because people come to the internet to get information. And if you're the person that's giving them that information, then they get to know you, like you, and trust you. And we all know that people do business with those they know, like, and trust.
Totally. Interesting. Yeah, interesting. I think I've actually seen that happen at a practice level, where you have members of a team where they take on a level of specialization and or channel message. It's quite courageous, I think. And it's rare in terms of what I've come across, and maybe I see it as rare, maybe it's not. becoming the authority of your own, personal brand, and becoming the authority of the segment or the cornering the market, so to speak, to have that connection and gravitas towards you as your personal brand is interesting. And look, that's the way I built my business back in 2016, 2017. I planted seeds with as many financial advisors as I possibly could, and then in 2018 when I launched, I already had built that gravitas, already built that personality online, mostly through LinkedIn. And it's amazing how many of those prospects or seeds that I had planted came back years later to say, well, I wasn't ready then, but I'm now ready to talk about joining and self-licensing or licensing through and becoming self-employed. What I'm trying to get to, though, it's interesting, and you got me thinking, Prosper. It's like, we go out and we build this personal brand platform, and then as we build the business, you're actually then building a brand. It's like you got and right now, because every business owner at some point has to exit, and so they need to future-proof the business in the sense that, well, if they're still the brand, then the actual value of the business kind of potentially is impacted through their exit. And so half the battle initially is being the gravitas, being the authority, using your personal brand to build the trust platform for people to join. And then over time is then how do you then invest in the actual brand of the business so that you can exit? And that's the part that you got me thinking. It's quite an interesting transition. So maybe we can talk about that. But the other thing I'd like to talk about as well is that model you described is actually interesting, because everyone will say, or many people will say, well, hang on, my social media platform footprint is my asset, not that of the company's.
Okay. Understandable.
I've actually heard that. So, and have you seen that before?
You see, this actually has to be in alignment with what the people that want to build that business, if you employ someone or people are working for you, if they are also wanting to build that business brand for you, yes, it is advisable to maybe see if you can utilize their expertise so that they can help you build the brand. But some people, yes, it's understandable when somebody says no, but obviously not knowing if egos are involved, if that's going to then create friction to say, okay, so how then do you expect us to sort of work together if you are not wanting to build this business? So where are your allegiances aligned? But that also is a cultural thing. If people want to build the company and the brand, they will actually help you to do that. So from where we sort of started off from and where we are now, in this conversation, half of the time it's a personal preference, whether you want to build a business brand or a personal brand. But it's in this day and age, it's easier to move with a personal brand because you can morph into different things than when you've got a business brand. It's very difficult to then change it to something else. All right, let's give Elon Musk as an example. All right, if he went on and built, even if you look at the social footprint that he has more followers than Tesla and all his other businesses combined. So it's harder to move a company brand than it is to move a personal brand because of the likability factor. So it's easy for you to actually then create and connect with people than it is to bring your whole corporate entity or brand in order to then help people connect with that, because
Totally agree.
Yes, right.
Totally agree. Yeah, totally agree. Yeah. So my comments were, I was like, you build this personal brand, then you end up building a business. And it's like, well, then how do you future-proof the business if you're removed from the business later? And then in actual fact, you got to transition to potentially a corporate brand. And then in that corporate brand, it's how do you incentivize people in that business to potentially align their social media footprint to your company, and that's another conversation. Or incentive, or do you, there might be some opportunities around, co-ownership, partnership, and so that alignment is at leadership level. That's probably the unlocking of that potential strategy, definitely. But it's interesting, that whole journey, isn't it? Like you start with that agility to be able to move and and pick your markets and build your channels. And then all of a sudden you stumble into, your sweet spot. And then from that sweet spot, you birth your actual business brand. And then that challenge is down the line, as I have found, is pretty much what I'm sharing. Yeah.
Absolutely. So with that personal brand, it allows you to be able to build a business brand, because now people want to work with you, customers want to buy from you. And it also then allows you to create yet another level of a brand that we don't talk of as much, the employer brand, where people want to actually work for you because you're a reputable person within the economy. So it's just literally just putting yourself in a position that opportunities, the business or the best talent comes to you because you're visible enough for them to want to be associated with what it is that you're building. So that will be another way to look at it in this sort of framework. It doesn't necessarily have to be either or. It's you being the kind of person that people want to gravitate towards to whether it's customers or whether it's A players, and you build a business based on A players and A grade clients, if you really look at it that way.
How does someone, I know I work with lots of businesses where that they post some stuff on their LinkedIn and awards, or a blog or something like that, but the owner or the key people, the directors, they're not really seen as the brand. It's the brand of the organization. So how does one actually build their personal brand on social media so that they actually can be seen as credible? Because there's sometimes, like, I flick through and I will pass people because I just think that's embarrassing. Keep scrolling. That's embarrassing. That's not credible, right? Or it's just, I don't know, it just doesn't look professional enough for me. So how does someone actually think about the type of brand they want to be and then go, right, you know what, I'm willing to now put my face to the company and not just a blog or not just a post?
Absolutely. So there's a lot to that question, where I will start off with, where do you actually want to go? Like, what does the future look like? Who do you want to become? And when it's all said and done, what do you want people to say about the person you were becoming? All right. So that is how then you then structure what the personal brand is going to look like. Are you wanting to be somebody who's going to be respected for their credibility? Are you wanting to be somebody who's wanting to be known for something? What do you want to be known for? So some people are known for just being famous. Okay, let's give an example of the Kardashians. Some people are actually known for being innovative. Some people are known for being smart enough and futuristic and things of that nature. So if you choose your theme and then you start building towards that makes it a whole lot easier for you to be congruent to that brand, because you're building towards where you're going. All right, you've given people an address. Like when you're traveling somewhere, you don't put the address of where you are, you put the address of where you're going. Where are you leading people to? That's what people follow. They don't necessarily just follow just because we both are wearing pink shirts today, Kylie. All right. They follow because that's all right. So they follow. They follow because they are also what's the story they're telling themselves based on what it is that you're showcasing to them. Okay. And then once that is established, you now need to figure out, what are you good at? Are you good at speaking? Are you good at writing? Or are you good at presenting? Because if you're good at writing, you now want to choose the lane of either publishing content in a written format, which is what you're going to be consistent in, and you're not going to be dabbling in other formats that you're not obviously good at. If you're good at speaking, then you could maybe do presentations like this, podcasts or whatever it is that involves voice. And if you're good at presenting, YouTube is yet another platform that you can actually start using. And once you've established what media of exchange would be. You want to stay consistent in that, and then with AI these days, this video can actually be, we can extrapolate the audio, and this can be transcribed into maybe a PDF or something that people can download or whatever it is. So you're no longer just morphing into different other things that you're not equally as good as, which is why a lot of people then end up on cringe mountain, because they're trying to be everything to everyone.
I like that. I like that.
Yeah.
I like that. That's right. Yeah. It's good. Yeah.
Exactly. And before you know it, you become nothing to the people that you're trying to reach out to. So I was looking at a few numbers here. And most of the people that you speak to are financial planners, right? There's about 15,000 financial planners in Australia that are actually registered. There could be a little bit more than that. And there's
lower. Yeah.
Is it a bit lower than that? But that's the number that I found.
Yeah.
And then I found that for every advisor, there's probably 1,600 people that you literally can be working with. That's a lot of people that you can influence that will make your business profitable and enjoyable. So if you just really find out who out there might be interested in what I've got, who I'm becoming, what I'm actually doing, all you need is that 1,600 people to know you intimately enough to want to pay, stay, and refer. And I think your business will be actually profitable. So many people want to be everything to everyone, where you will then find yourself dancing on TikTok Reels, which is not exactly what any of the professionals should be doing. So just find your people. And I think there's a number called Dunbus numbers. Dunbus numbers is usually for every person. Okay, you can look this up. For every person, there's usually 250 people that you can invite to your wedding, and 250 people that would.
So obviously not a Greek wedding, but anyway, keep going.
I mean, I'm talking not my big fat Greek wedding, but I'm talking, on average, in a normal scenario. All right. And then there's maybe 250 people that would come to your funeral. If you can just have that number in your head, and if you had 250 clients or people that were on your database that knew who you were, that go up and you invite them to dinners, like, now I can't wait for August, Kylie.
I know.
That alone becomes your central universe, and you become the person that's the leader of those people, and you know exactly where they want to go. So you don't necessarily have to then keep showing up for all the other people, because those are not your clients. And if people just have that in mind, every industry has those particular numbers. You don't necessarily need the millions of followers, that the Kardashians have. And I've seen people that have all those millions of followers, and when they put something for sale, nobody wants to buy it.
Yeah. There's a couple of singers that do that. Rihanna, however you say it, she's not only got the followers, but she's got the people that buy from her. Whereas, there's some others, they've got the followers, but they're not buying the perfumes and the aftershave and all that. Arthur, I'll go to you before I go to my other question.
Look, what I really liked with what you just covered is we're all retrospective. We all talk about what we've done. And so when I look at marketing and I think about financial planning practices, they'll talk about we do this, we did this for a client, we did that for a client. All very good, important. All very good and very important. Clients can share that through a testimonial, all well and good. But what you really tapped into, which I thought was really insightful, and we probably do it unconsciously, is like always talk about where we are going and what we are becoming. And I think about my audience, my direct audience being my licensed advisors. We have about 100 or so licensed advisors. We always had a goal. We pretty much reached that goal to have 80 principals, which may employ support staff and other advisors. And so you're absolutely right. If I look at that business that I have, there's about 250 people in that business that we support through my team, being the principals right through to other advisors employed and support staff. So it's actually a network of about 250 people that I support. And we always talk about as a business where we are going, why we are going, how we're going to get there. And so you're right. I mean, if I look back at how I do things, that's how I've done it, and that's how I keep that I guess that relationship, and that's how you galvanize the relationship versus and we're very very tasteful and very what's the word humble around, when we win something, when we do something great, we don't go out to the network and blast the airwave. It's just, it's done. I'd rather let other people talk about us versus
Yep.
us talking about ourselves, and I think that is the key. If you can do that quietly and like I call it like a glacier, like it's quiet, it's silent, but its momentum it's like an unstoppable force. That's the kind of feel of a business that I want to create. It's like a glacier, and that's really what we're trying to do. And then on the flip side, with my wealth management business, I mean, it's a personal, one-on-one relationship with consumers. Exactly that. It's like, we've now got all these wonderful advantages as advisors to increase our capacity, increase our speed, to the point where you could actually then, achieve that beautiful number of 200, 250, as you said, whereas we've been languishing, trying to keep up with all the compliance and all the requirements and red tape, and just trying to hold on to 120 and barely hold on, with great difficulty. So doubling that through the capacity that's now being found through these new technologies, and then emulating what you just said is, how do you find that next 125, 130 clients in that example? It's, what are we becoming as an organization? Where are we going as an organization? Where do we want to take our clients? Where do we want to take them? Versus, where we've been and what we've done. I think it was very insightful. And the three strengths: what are you good at? Writing, speaking, or presenting? Totally. I think that's a great framework to work with. So it's so simple, but so on point, isn't it? Like, instead of trying to be all of it, pick your one and become the authority in that one. It's great.
Yeah, I love that.
Mm.
That for me, Prosper, and hearing you say it back like that after tells us, how do we build the brand?
Mm.
I'm going to ask one final question for you. Actually, I might ask two, Prosper, but the first one, right, is what I'm hearing a lot from brand influencers like Alex Hormozi and Daniel Priestley, and really quality people out there. They're saying that at the moment, they kind of give the analogy that if you're flying under the clouds in the next 2 years with everything that's going on with AI, it's going to be really hard for you to be seen as a brand above the clouds. So they're sort of saying you've got to get your brand, your personal brand, above the clouds now, and get those followers, 1,600 to 250, whatever it might be, to get them so that they remember you, because you'll be drowned out. So I wonder if you could tell us, what is the cost of business owners or leaders staying invisible? What is the cost of them actually not building their brand and staying invisible?
Oh, okay. So the cost also depends. You could be a tradesperson that's really good at what they're doing, and people will always need a plumber. There's positions like that. But for people that are in the space where AI can literally do some of the work that they're doing, it is advisable to learn what AI can do and then humanize it. Okay, because what AI can now do, people can do it cheaper, better, faster, and they think they have that information. But what you want to do now is the hand holding, the actual advice, the actual, this is going to burn your hands. That's where people need to actually maximize on having an understanding of what they're doing. So compliance, advice, information, all of that stuff can now be disseminated by some robot as we speak. But there's the actual care of, and I think there's the you know, a lot of financial planners have is it fiduciary care or whatever it is. I want to extend that to bedside manner. You know, when the patient really is by the doctor and the doctor is really hand holding them, saying this is what's going to happen, these are the after effects, and this is what we can do, this is what you can prevent. That part now is where a lot of people need to strategize. Running around and trying to be everything to what the algorithms are doing, the algorithms are also going to keep changing. They're also going to keep morphing. You might learn something today which might actually not be relevant tomorrow, and that is happening in all the other spaces, right? I'll give you an example from what these people are saying, which is, it is correct to say if you don't embrace the AI right now, you will be forgotten, right? But also look at the people that didn't embrace social media. The algorithms did what they did. Now social media are literally defending themselves in court, saying we're not social media platforms, we're entertainment platforms. All right,
Yeah.
that's what Mark Zuckerberg said in court. He says you can't charge us on those things. We are now an entertainment platform. All right. So if people jumped onto the bandwagon of learning social, that is no longer a relevant channel to grow. Okay. But the channel that still exists is people need help. People still need assistance. And if we can actually learn to be more and more human, so we can help people with the expertise that we have spent all this time learning, I think that's the best way that people can do that. And the way we do it is by making it easy for people to connect with us, making it easy for people to understand what it is that we do, for who and why. And we just so happen to be using AI to stay afloat. I don't know if that's answering your question, because if I look into my industry, everything that I do, literally I sleep with one eye open, just looking to see what platform has taken my job by the time I wake up. But the fact that I'm now doing writing in books, doing podcasts and things like that, that creates a different moat
That's it. Yeah.
in a different asset class to the way that I'm presenting. Yes, people will still want to learn and understand how it is that I'm doing, but most of the work can now be done by artificial intelligence, no doubt about that. But there's that in between which actually needs to work. Now I'm going to take this from Daniel Presley, since you've already mentioned it, right? He writes I wish I had a ruler to show you this. So he's got a line, a timeline, 1 up until 10. All right. And then he says, let's say your work is doing 1 up until 10 steps. First 2 steps is you connecting with the audience and actually engaging them and working with them in such a way they believe you're the one that can take them to the promised land. And the in between 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 can be done by artificial intelligence or can be outsourced. And then the 8 and 9, and the 9 and 10 can now be the periodic check-ins that you're doing with them, that in-person type thing, to actually see that everything is working, and maybe asking them to get something more to enhance what it is that they already have. And then the analogy that he put there, he likened it to a farmer. All right. So a farmer plants the seed, that's, or knows the seed to plant or the time for planting, that's the 1 and 2. And in between, there's a technology that we don't understand, the rain, the soil, the atmosphere that is actually growing the plants. And then the 9 and the 10 is the actual harvest and selling them in the marketplace. So if you really look at it like that, try and find out in your job and in the work that you're doing, which parts really require somebody to know, like, and trust you, know and like you enough to step into your office and have a meeting with you. And then obviously what's happening in between, whatever the markets are doing, that's beyond your control. But at least the least you can do is advise them the right sort of strategy. And then there's that yearly check-in to see what's actually happening. And if you can master those two, obviously, you know, with financial planners, there's CPD points, and you're always being asked to improve on your work. That part is already taken care of. But the part of connecting with people and actually showing them what the next thing is and continuously getting them to grow with you, that's the part that requires a human being. That's the part that requires shaking hands, hugging,
Can't
kissing,
deny that.
whatever it is. Yes, that's the part that AI can't do. And we are very safe unless you've become a robot yourself.
I'm conscious of the time, and we always ask our guests one final question, Prosper, and that is, if they could take away one thing from our time together today, what would you recommend they take away and do?
Absolutely. See, I think there's a lot in the marketplace right now, and I think people should just figure out, what are you good at? What are you actually good at? If you're good at writing, write more. Blogs, there's so many avenues that you can actually write. If you're good at speaking, start a podcast. If you're good at presenting, start a YouTube channel. Your people, the right kind of people with the right kind of pain, will find you. That is designed by the way the platforms want, because they want people to stay on their platforms. So if you're connecting and really taking people on a journey, all the work will be done for you behind the scenes. Try not to be everything to everyone, and that alone should be the one thing.
Great. Thank you, Prosper. Absolutely amazing to have a chat with you. And for those that would like to learn more about Prosper, absolutely recommend you get his book. Arthur, as always, great to speak with you and great to see you.
Thanks, Kylie. Good on you, Prosper. And before we part ways, you've read all those books behind you, right? Because you can't show off all those books without saying you've read each one of them.
Twice.
Look at all my books. Look at all
those. We don't see the cloud that is storing all your books. So
yes, it's on the cloud. Yeah. Oh, good. Love to meet you. Thank you very much. Yeah, that was good.
Thanks,
Really enjoyed our
everyone.
session.
Thanks for
Thank you so much.
listening.